We're in the sanctuary at Old First Presbyterian Church, and this is actually where Four Seasons City Farm was birthed. We started in 2003. We started our first garden right next to the church in a vacant lot with a little bit of seed money from the church, and then we got some grants. In 2008 we formed a nonprofit 501c3. The pastor of our church, Suzanne Hayes, was instrumental in that and a big supporter, and we've actually lost her in 2010 and dedicated the garden to her. So we have a memorial garden as our first garden. The front of it is the dedicatory garden, and the back of the garden is more production. And we actually established a greenhouse. It's called a hoop house or a high tunnel. We have crops growing all through the year, hence the name Four Seasons City Farm. We start our crops in the lower sanctuary, the basement of the church, under lights, and then bring them out to the garden in the greenhouse in late February. The sun does the job of keeping that place warm enough through March to get the plants up and going. And we actually have started as many as 100 flats, 100 trays of seedlings and flowers, vegetables, and herbs, and then take those to our different garden sites. So the church garden, the Garden of Communion as it's been called, the memorial garden to Suzanne Hayes, is the first garden we had. Then we added a couple more the first year. Then within 3 years we had 8 different sites, and we were looking for something a little larger. And on Mound and Carpenter Street, we found about an acre lot that the city owned. So most of our lots are city-owned. They're part of the land bank program. They lease those to different community gardeners or individuals for just $10 a year. So we're able to help them out. Normally they'd have to maintain these lots at quite an expense. And instead of just sitting as a vacant lot, sometimes collecting trash, we turn them into beautiful plots. With flowers, herbs, and vegetables. We donate 1/3 of what we grow to food banks, soup kitchens, and pantries, and to people in need. Then 1/3 of it we sell. We sold to restaurants, co-ops. Also in the first couple of years, we even sold to Giant Eagle, and also farmers markets. And then the other 1/3 we distribute to whoever's helped out in the garden. So the people that come out and volunteer, they are a part of the harvest also. We have a lot of individuals that just come out harvest time, and that's been a situation we've been addressing over the years in different creative ways. But we always try to get folks involved. In this neighborhood, it seems the kids are the most interested, and they're actually the ones we can make a bigger impact with. Getting them connected to actually being outdoors, connected with Mother Nature and the earth, and developing a respect and some knowledge on how food is grown. So we also, over the years, we've had a summer chef's cooking school for kids, and that entailed working out in the garden in the morning and then harvesting and bringing back the produce to the kitchen at the church and having the kids help create a meal from it. We also started a farm club at Ohio Avenue Elementary School and got kids interested there did a lot of teaching and outreach. And we have festivals periodically, harvest festivals, planting festivals, and work on getting more folks in the community involved and building community that way. That's been a goal and kind of a byproduct also of just being out in the garden, connecting with neighbors and getting neighbors to connect with each other. We're growing now on about an acre with sometimes as many as 300 tomato plants. So we actually sell a lot of those. We've had a salsa business at one point at Black Creek Bistro, and also one year we produced pesto, going down to a cooperative food processing facility in Athens County and making 400 6-ounce canisters or containers of pesto. So that's the way I'm looking at making a bigger economic impact, is through a value added. When you just grow the produce and you have to sell it immediately, you're only able to realize so much return. But if you can do a value add and process the vegetables and fruit, you're able to sell those later. And also, you get more people involved. A lot of people don't like actually going out in the garden, getting their hands dirty, but doing something with food, adding an extra step in there gets a lot of people psyched up. A new approach that's been developing over the years, the last several years, is something called a community food forest. And another name for that is Fruit Park. They have a couple of these around Columbus. We've established one over on Mount and Carpenter and at our other sites. So it's a permaculture concept where you have different layers of produce growing. So the strawberries and blueberries at ground level, then we have raspberries, elderberries, currants, gooseberries, all in bushes. And then you have dwarf fruit trees. We've got maybe a dozen apple trees, half a dozen pears, and say about the same number of peaches. A lot of cherry trees growing, and we also have flowering cherries. So it adds not only food, but beauty to the neighborhood. Because when you go and do vegetables, you're having to replant every year. If you can plant perennials and create a permaculture site, your trees will be there for the next 40, 50 years. So we also get more kids involved that way. Instead of going to the store and buying snacks, sometimes they'll come over and harvest strawberries, raspberries, and it's been a real nice addition to what we're doing out there with our vegetables. We've received a couple different grants. The most recent one was from Mid-Ohio Food Bank. And they've been really supportive and progressive in this concept of trying to get more food grown in this area and then distributing it, making it more available to lower income people that don't normally go out and buy produce. If they're given produce at a discount and they're taught how to use it, that's going to really impact our health. I think overall the other plans we have are to expand the permaculture component, so we're getting more fruit trees. We're actually going to plant, this is October, we're going to plant another dozen trees here next week. And the idea of getting more people into it as a job creator, I think, is where we're also looking in the future. We're expanding that component, and probably we'll get back into doing our value added. We get enough gardeners involved from different community gardens to do an aggregation where if you're growing tomatoes, you have someone else growing onions, someone else with peppers. You put it all together and you make a salsa. So you're not only connecting with other gardeners, but also then creating a product that has value and will create jobs. This garden was established in 2004 and has developed over the years. One of our members is very much a student of horticulture and religion, and he's introduced a lot of different plants to this memorial garden. These pears have been growing, this pear tree has been growing about 7 or 8 years. We built this structure we call a pavilion and planted 4 northern kiwis, one at each corner, and it's completely covered this 15-foot high structure. This is one of the kiwis that I picked off the plant, off the tree, and we're expecting great harvest once the male plant starts to pollinate all these flowers. So this is a nice shady area we have open for the neighbors to come and sit down, and we have even a little area for cooking, a little campfire action. We've lined the side of the garden with apple trees and a couple, there's a pear and a peach tree in the front. It's after harvest, so we picked up about 3 bushels of apples, and they're all organic, as we grow everything organic in our gardens. Just planted this year, these are Jerusalem artichokes, and it has like a sunflower bud or flower, and then the root is actually a tuber that you can eat. It looks kind of like ginger or turmeric, and it's very healthy. There's still tomatoes growing in there now this first week in October, but in another couple weeks we'll rototill inside and we'll put in spinach, kale, lettuce, Swiss chard. If it stays above 0, usually we're okay. So what happens at night, if it goes cold, the plants will actually freeze. If you pick the spinach, you'll see the stem has got ice crystals. If you let it stay on the plant instead of picking it, it'll come back to life. The ice will melt and the plant is still fine. So we're inside of the high tunnel. We've taken the plastic off, and this is our prize fig tree that produced quite heavily in early August, and there's actually a second crop coming on. You can see the little figs right here. Those are excellent fresh figs. We've nurtured that through the year. Some years it freezes back even though we've got it covered, but it always comes back again. And we've also had a lot of tomatoes planted in here. They were planted as early as April, and we're going to continue them on. But yeah, we'll end up filling this whole area with greens and cover with plastic, be able to harvest all the way in, sometimes throughout the whole year. Certain crops like Swiss chard and kale are so hardy that you can grow them all the way through January and February, and even have them the next spring. So we're also going to be adding a smaller high tunnel on the south side of our garden with another grant we received, and we'll fill that with more perennials and more starts. Yeah, it's been a real success, and we're going to expand on the high tunnels and get more kids involved in the neighborhood, coming in here this winter, helping us out and learning a little bit more about growing their own food.